You finally said no. You finally put your needs first. And instead of applause, you were met with a cold shoulder, a guilt trip, or even an argument. In that lonely, confusing moment, a single, devastating question echoes in your mind. Did I do something wrong? What if you did nothing wrong? What if you just disrupted a system that was built on your silence? Here is one of the most painful and liberating truths of this work. When you start setting boundaries, the people who benefited from you having none will often be the first to call you selfish. This is not a sign to retreat. It is confirmation that your boundaries are finally working. Their pushback is not about you. It is about their discomfort with the loss of their own convenience. Today, we are not going to sugarcoat this difficult truth. We are going to arm you for it. First, we will explore the deep psychological reasons why people resist your growth, using a powerful metaphor from family systems. Then, I will give you a playbook of the common tactics they use, from gaslighting to character assassination, so you can learn to recognize them. And finally, I will give you your conflict toolkit, 4 simple, non-aggressive strategies to stay loyal to yourself, with compassion but without apology. It is time to learn how to stand firm in your truth, even when the world around you is shaking. To begin this journey of unwavering self-loyalty, I invite you to make a commitment. Share it in the comments below. Write, "My loyalty is to my own growth." To understand why people push back, we must first understand that every relationship is a system. A family, a friendship, a workplace. They are not just collections of individuals. They are complex, interconnected systems with unwritten rules, roles, and expectations. Family systems therapists use a beautiful metaphor for this. They say that every relationship system is like a dance. For years, you have been dancing a very specific dance with the people in your life. Perhaps it was the people-pleaser's waltz. You step back, they step forward. You accommodate, they lead. You silence your needs, they express theirs freely. The steps are so well rehearsed, so deeply ingrained, that no one even thinks about them anymore. The dance is not necessarily healthy, it is not necessarily joyful, but it is predictable. It is stable. Everyone knows their part. Now, after all this deep shadow work, you have begun to change your steps. Instead of stepping back, you stand your ground. Instead of silencing your needs, you give them a quiet voice. You are introducing a new move into a dance that has been the same for decades. And what happens when one dancer changes their steps? The entire system is thrown off balance. Your dance partner, who was expecting you to step back, suddenly stumbles. They're confused, they are disoriented, and their first instinctual reaction is not applause. It is to try and get you to go back to the old, familiar steps. That is pushback. It feels personal. It feels like an attack on you. But it is crucial to understand this, a truth that Carl Jung's work on the collective unconscious helps us see. The pushback is often a systemic reaction to a change in the equilibrium, not a personal rejection of who you are becoming. They are not reacting to your new self. They are reacting to the loss of their old dance partner. Let's look at the 3 deep, often unconscious psychological reasons people push back. The first and most obvious reason is a loss of control and convenience. Let's be honest. Your old dance made their lives easier. Your willingness to always say yes, to take on the extra work, to be the emotional shock absorber was very convenient for them. When you set a boundary, you are removing that convenience. Their pushback is a simple, primal protest against the loss of a benefit. It is not necessarily malicious. It is simply human nature. Let's imagine Chloe, our nurse. For years, she has been the one in her family who always organizes every holiday gathering, the Thanksgiving dinner, the Christmas party. It is an exhausting, thankless job, but it is her role in the family dance. This year, after doing her work, she lovingly but firmly announces, "I have loved hosting for all these years, but I need to rest this year. I will not be hosting Thanksgiving." The immediate reaction from her brother is not, "Oh, of course, you deserve a rest." It is, "But you always do it. What are we supposed to do now?" His frustration is not really about Chloe. It is about his own loss of convenience. He is reacting to the disruption of a system that worked very well for him. The second, deeper reason for pushback is their own fear of abandonment. This is a profound paradox. Your act of self-connection can trigger their fear of disconnection. When you start to have your own needs, your own opinions, your own separate life, the other person in the system can unconsciously feel threatened. The inner child in them panics. It asks, if she doesn't need me in the same way anymore, will she leave me? If he has his own hobbies now, will he still have time for me? Their pushback, their guilt-tripping, their anger, can be a desperate, clumsy attempt to pull you back into the old, familiar dance of codependence, because that is where they feel safe. And the third and most profound reason for pushback is that your growth triggers their own shadow. Your courage illuminates their fear. As the great Jungian analyst Robert A. Johnson wrote, "To honor one's own shadow is the start of the hero's journey." When you begin to do this work, when you start setting boundaries, speaking your truth, and honoring your needs, you become a mirror. And for people who have not done their own work, that mirror can be blindingly uncomfortable. Your courage to say no shines a bright, painful light on their own inability to do so. Your willingness to embrace your authentic self highlights the mask they are still wearing. And it is far, far easier to get angry at the mirror than it is to look at one's own reflection. When they call you selfish, they are often projecting their own deep, unacknowledged fear of what would happen if they ever dared to put their own needs first. Your freedom is a reminder of their own cage. Control, fear, shadow. These are the unconscious drivers behind the pushback you face. It is almost never about you. It is about them. It is about their own fears, their own needs, their own unlived lives. Understanding this doesn't excuse their behavior, but it does depersonalize it. It allows you to see their reaction not as an indictment of your character, but as a symptom of their own struggle. And from that place of understanding, you can learn to respond, not with anger and not with surrender, but with a calm, grounded, and compassionate strength. But to do that, you must first learn to recognize the specific, predictable tactics that pushback often takes. You must learn the plays in their playbook.
To navigate this new, unsteady dance, you must learn to recognize the predictable steps of the pushback. Resistance is often not a direct, honest conversation. It is a game of psychological chess, played with subtle and often unconscious tactics designed to pull you back into your old role. Let's open the playbook. Let's learn to name the 4 most common tactics so you can see them coming and not be drawn into the game. The first and most classic tactic is the guilt trip. This is the weapon of choice against a recovering people pleaser. It is an attempt to reactivate the old program that says, your needs are a betrayal of my needs. It often sounds like an appeal to your history of niceness. Let's imagine Chloe has told her mother she can't come over for dinner on Wednesday night because she has scheduled that as her sacred experiment time, her time for herself. Her mother, feeling the disruption in the dance, might deploy a guilt trip. She might say, "Oh, that's a shame. After all I've done for you, I was just hoping to spend a little time with my daughter." Or, the more classic version, "It's fine. I'll just eat alone. Don't worry about me." Do you hear the hook? It is a direct appeal to the inner child's fear of being a bad or ungrateful daughter. The goal is to trigger your guilt so that you will abandon your boundary and rush back to your old role of making them feel okay. The second tactic is more insidious. It is designed to make you question your own sanity. Tactic number 2 is gaslighting. Gaslighting is the act of denying or distorting your reality to make you feel like you are the one who is crazy. It is a powerful tool to undermine your confidence in your new, authentic self. Let's say a man named Tom, a 47-year-old manager, has started setting a boundary at work. He no longer answers emails after 6 p.m. His boss, who is used to his 24/7 availability, is annoyed. Tom gently reminds him of his new boundary. The boss might respond with gaslighting. He might say, "What are you talking about? I don't expect you to work late. You're being way too sensitive about this. I was just sending it so I wouldn't forget." See the twist? He denies the unspoken expectation that has existed for years. He reframes Tom's reasonable boundary as an oversensitive emotional reaction. The goal is to make Tom think, maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I'm the problem. Gaslighting makes you doubt the very ground you're standing on. The third tactic is a direct assault on your character. Tactic number 3 is character assassination. This is when the other person cannot argue with the logic of your boundary, so they attack you, the boundary setter, instead. They attempt to frame your act of self-care as a fundamental flaw in your personality. When Chloe sets the boundary about Thanksgiving, her brother, instead of addressing the issue, might resort to this. He might say, "You've changed, Chloe. You used to be so caring and family-oriented. Now you're just selfish." Or, "Ever since you started reading all those self-help books, you've become so cold." This tactic is incredibly painful because it targets your deepest fears, the fear that your growth is making you a worse person. The goal is to shame you, not just for your action, but for who you are becoming, so that you will retreat back into the likable persona you once were. And the final tactic is the most disguised. It often comes from a place of genuine but misguided care. Tactic number 4 is the concern troll. This is when criticism is wrapped in the language of concern. The other person frames your new boundary not as a sign of health, but as a symptom of a problem. When Chloe tells her mother she needs her Wednesday night to herself, her mother might say, "Honey, I'm just worried about you. I seem so stressed and withdrawn lately. Is everything okay? Are you depressed?" This is a sophisticated move. On the surface, it sounds like love. But the underlying message is your new behavior is not normal. It is a sign of illness. You need to go back to the way you were for your own good. It infantilizes you, positioning you as someone who doesn't know what's best for yourself. The goal is to make you doubt your own inner wisdom and to return to the old dynamic under the guise of getting better. Guilt tripping, gaslighting, character assassination, and concern trolling. These are the predictable steps of the old dance, trying to pull you back in. They are the defensive maneuvers of a system that is afraid of change. For years, you have been unconsciously reacting to these moves by giving in, by apologizing, by stepping back. But now, you are conscious. You have the playbook. You can see the moves for what they are. This knowledge is your shield. It allows you to depersonalize the attacks. You can hear a guilt trip and think, tactic number 1. This is not about me being a bad daughter. This is about her feeling the system change. You can hear a character assassination and think, interesting. Tactic number 3. My boundary has triggered their shadow. You are no longer a participant in the drama. You are a wise, grounded observer of human psychology in action. And from that place of observation, from that place of calm clarity, you are now ready to learn how to respond, not to react. And that requires a toolkit of your own.
To know the playbook is not enough. When the pushback comes, your nervous system will still light up. The old fawn response, the urge to appease, will still rise in your throat. In those moments, you do not need more analysis. You need a simple, clear toolkit, a set of strategies to help you respond, not just react. These are not tools of aggression. They are tools of sovereignty. The first and most important tool is not something you say. It is something you do internally. Tool number 1 is the internal anchor. Before you speak a single word in response to pushback, you must first anchor yourself. The other person's reaction is a storm designed to pull you off your center. Your first job is to not be moved. So, you pause. You take one single conscious breath. And in that breath, you practice the tools we have learned. You place a hand on your heart, you connect back to the conscious adult you, and you silently remember your why. Why did you set this boundary in the first place? You remember the exhaustion. You remember the resentment. You remember the promise you made to your inner child that you would finally protect her. This internal anchor is your source of strength. It is the solid ground you will speak from. Only after you have anchored yourself do you speak. Tool number 2 is validate their feeling, not their story. This is a masterful de-escalation technique. It works by acknowledging the other person's emotion without agreeing with their interpretation of reality. You are not saying you are right. You are saying, I hear that you are feeling something. Let's imagine Chloe's brother says to her, I can't believe you're being so selfish about Thanksgiving. The old Chloe would have defended her story. I'm not being selfish, I'm just tired. And the argument would escalate. The new Chloe, anchored, can use this tool. She can say, calmly, I can hear that you're really disappointed about this. Do you see the magic in this? She is not agreeing that she is selfish. She is simply validating his feeling of disappointment. This immediately lowers the other person's defenses. They feel heard. And a person who feels heard is less likely to keep shouting. After you have validated their feeling, you can move to tool number 3. Tool number 3
is the I statement plus boundary reiteration. You do not get drawn into an argument about their story or their characterization of you. You simply, and calmly, speak your own truth and restate your boundary. An I statement focuses on your experience, which is undeniable. After Chloe validates her brother's disappointment, he might push again. Well, what are we supposed to do now? She can now use the I statement. She says, I know this changes things, and I feel bad that it's causing stress. However, my decision not to host this year is firm. Or let's take Tom, the manager whose boss gaslighted him. After his boss says, you're being too sensitive, Tom, anchored, can respond. I understand that wasn't your intention, but when I receive work emails late at night, I feel pressure to respond, which impacts my family time. So I will be responding to them the next morning. He is not arguing. He is not accusing. He is simply stating his feeling and the reality of his boundary. It is calm. It is clear. It is unarguable. But what if the conversation does not de-escalate? What if the other person continues to use guilt-tripping or character assassination? This is when you need the final and most self-honoring tool. Tool number 4 is the graceful exit. You have the right to end any conversation that becomes disrespectful or abusive. Staying and fighting is part of the old dance. The new step is to calmly and confidently leave the dance floor. If Chloe's brother were to say, "You've become a really cold person, you know that?" she does not need to defend herself. She can anchor and say, "I'm not willing to continue this conversation while I'm being spoken to this way. I love you, and we can talk about this later when we're both calmer." And then you physically leave the room, or you end the phone call. This is not an act of weakness. It is an act of profound self-respect. You are teaching people that access to you is conditional upon respect. You are modeling the very behavior you wish to receive. This is the ultimate boundary. The internal anchor. Validate the feeling, not the story. The I statement plus boundary reiteration. The graceful exit. This is your toolkit. This is how you stand your ground, with compassion, but without apology. But as you practice this, you will come to a hard and often heartbreaking realization, which is what we must speak of next. Today, we have built an armory for your authentic self. We began by understanding that the pushback you receive is not proof that you are wrong, but proof that you are changing the dance. We depersonalized the conflict by uncovering the 3 deep psychological reasons people resist your growth: their loss of control, their own fear of abandonment, and the painful triggering of their own shadow. We opened their playbook and learned to recognize the 4 predictable tactics of resistance: the guilt trip, gaslighting, character assassination, and the concern troll. By naming these tactics, you have already taken back your power. You have moved from being a player in the drama to being a conscious observer of it. And most importantly, you now have a toolkit for how to respond, not just react. 4 powerful, compassionate strategies to hold your ground. The internal anchor to connect with your why. Validating their feeling, not their story, to de-escalate. The I statement plus boundary reiteration to speak your truth clearly. And the graceful exit to honor yourself when a conversation becomes disrespectful. This is your toolkit for sovereignty. But as you begin to practice this, as you learn to stand firm in your truth with compassion but without apology, you will encounter one of the hardest truths of any healing journey. And it is this: not everyone will be able to dance the new dance with you. Some relationships in your life were built entirely on the foundation of your old people-pleasing self. They were conditional. The condition was that you would always play your part, that you would always step back. When you change the steps, the very foundation of that relationship may crumble. And some people will choose the old dance without you over learning a new one with you. This is a real and painful loss. It is a grief that must be honored. But here is the other side of that hard truth, the beautiful, liberating side. Your growth, your authenticity, your unwavering loyalty to your own soul acts as a powerful filter. Yes, it may filter some people out of your life, but it will also inevitably filter the right people in. Your light will begin to attract other people who are also doing their work. People who are not afraid of your strength, but are inspired by it. People who do not need you to be small, but celebrate your expansion. You are making space. Space for deeper, more authentic, more nourishing connections than you have ever known. In the end, as Carl Jung taught, your primary responsibility is to your own journey of individuation, to the lifelong task of becoming who you truly are. Being authentic is not always easy. In fact, it is often the harder path, but it is the only path that leads to wholeness. To navigate these changing relationships, we often need to look at the very role we have been playing for a lifetime. For so many of us, that role has been the rescuer, the one who fixes, who saves, who takes on everyone else's problems. But what if that role is the very source of your exhaustion? And what if it's time to shift from being the rescuer of other people's kingdoms to becoming the sovereign queen of your own? That is the deep, identity-level shift we will explore in our next conversation. For this week, your invitation is to simply stay the course. When the pushback comes, anchor yourself. Remember your tools. To affirm your commitment to this brave and sometimes lonely path, I invite you to join the community in this declaration of self-loyalty. Share it in the comments below. My loyalty is to my own growth. Thank you for your courage. You are not just changing your steps, you are changing your world.